Hello and welcome to Real Monsters, and this week we are going aliens across the world. It feels like everywhere is going alien mad since Romulus came out.
Yep.
You know, you have the Alien Earth coming out now, the TV show, which I hope doesn't contradict anything I do in the next 2 weeks on the main show. But it shouldn't, because I'm not really telling any stories. It's more profiles on the alien. Yeah. Because this week on the show we're doing xenomorphs, and then Mini Monsters is everything we're going to talk about here today, which is all space alien stuff. And we get a bit deep on some of the stuff here. But yeah, definitely, if you're into the Alien franchise and the Predator franchise, then check out the next 2 weeks of It's Alive Alive podcast.
Yes.
Because we're doing xenomorphs this week, and I'm not even going to try and say what the Predator's real name is right now. I'm going to have to learn the pronunciation of that, because we're recording the main show tomorrow. I got to know how to pronounce those words. So this week we are looking at the Battle of Nuremberg. We're looking at grey aliens, we're looking at reptilians, and we're looking at the abduction of Betty and Barney Hill.
Yes.
So, do you want to kick us off with the Battle of Nuremberg?
Right. Well, an April 1561 broadsheet by Hans Glasser described a mass sighting of celestial phenomena or unidentified flying objects over Nuremberg. UFologists have speculated that these phenomena may have been extraterrestrial spacecraft. Skeptics assert that the phenomenon was likely to have been another atmospheric phenomena such as a sundog, although the print doesn't fit the usual classic description of the phenomena. A sundog or mock sun is an atmospheric optical phenomenon that consists of a bright spot to one or both sides of the sun. The sundog is a member of the family of halos caused by a refraction of sunlight by ice crystals in the atmosphere. Sundogs typically appear as a pair of subtly coloured patches of light around 22 degrees to the left and right of the sun and at the same altitude above the horizons as the sun. They can be seen anywhere in the world during any season, but are not always obvious or bright. Sundogs are best seen and most conspicuous when the sun is near the horizon.
Have you seen what this thing is? What a sundog is?
No.
It essentially looks like there's a glare on your camera lens. It's like the sun is in the middle.
Yeah.
And on either side, there's like a glare of light. Left to right of it. And it just, I suppose it could appear like there's like two stars at either side of it. But really, it just looks like someone's taking a picture and there's a glare of the sun from either side.
Oh, yeah.
So
I can see that. It's like this, yeah.
Because when I looked up this today, I realised that I'd seen the picture before.
Yeah.
From the broadsheet. And I can't see how you'd mistake a sundog for this.
Oh, as in the print of the actual original? Yeah. I mean, like, did you see the spear?
Cylinders
like
and
the
stuff
spear,
like that.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
Really weird. According to the broadsheet, around dawn on the 14th of April 1561, many men and women of Nuremberg saw what the broadsheet describes as an aerial battle out of the sun, followed by the appearance of a large black triangular object and exhausted combatant spears falling to the earth in clouds of smoke.
See, how is that a sundog?
I don't know. That black triangular object, I can't work that out. I can understand everything else.
That pops up over and over and over again. Like, it's a common
even now,
so we'll talk about that as we go along.
The broadsheet claims that witnesses observed hundreds of spheres and cylinders and other odd-shaped objects that moved erratically overhead. The woodcut illustration depicts objects of various shapes, including crosses with or without spheres on the arms, small spheres, there's too many spheres, two large crescents, a black spear, and cylindrical objects from which several small spheres emerged and darted around the sky at dawn.
Fair play to you there, because I was going to say, like, don't think it's small spears, it's small spheres.
Sphere. There are spears there.
Black spears,
but there's spheres also.
But wooden cut. So hang on, is there newspapers coming to them as a slab of wood?
No. So a woodcut is called a woodcut. So it's like, do you ever do lino printing or tile printing in school and art?
No.
So a woodcut was called a woodcut because they'd take the wood and then they'd carve away the negative space and then they dip it in ink and then you have your woodcut. It's print.
Oh, and then that would be like your stand, or that would basically print onto the page.
Yeah, basically.
So it was their printing press before printing presses. A very slow way of doing a printing press. Yeah.
Although like I think the printing press was around at this stage.
Okay, broke person's printing press.
Well, the printing press, you see, the thing about the printing press was that you didn't have to take the slab of wood and carve out all the words. The inventive thing about the printing press was that you could arrange all these letters. The letters you could take out, but like the woodcut was a woodcut because you can't change around the pictures in the woodcut.
Yeah, so you had to carve it in there slowly. How did they get that done before new news came out?
I think you just had to wait a few weeks for new news.
We were doing a little research for your first season of Playing with Bones, where we're doing the seasons, and that's going to be Jack the Ripper, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they were talking about there how newspapers, even then, were coming out multiple times a day.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know?
They'd have to keep up with the news because you weren't going to get everything straight away.
So who's this poor little carver that's got to get all this shit carved into the newspaper?
Hans Glasser, apparently.
Anyway, look, this idea of a battle in the sky or seeing things hovering over a place isn't new.
It's not.
I mean, the one we know the best. Probably the Pheonix Lights.
Yeah.
The one we've seen because it's from our time.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
1997, March 13th, United States of Arizona and Nevada. There was big ass ship seen overhead in the space of about 300 miles from the Nevada line through Phoenix to the edge of Tucson?
Tucson, maybe?
Tucson. Sorry, there's a Tuscany, and that's where I got confused. Some witnesses described seeing what appeared to be a huge carpenter's square-shaped UFO containing 5 spherical lights. There were 2 distinct events involved in the incident: a triangular formation of lights seen to pass over the state, and a series of stationary lights seen in the Phoenix area.
Why is it triangular? Why triangle such a common thing when it comes to, you know, like seeing UFOs? Like, it's all like
that is probably the one they're flying the most.
No, but even the formation of lights, like where, you know, like where.
Well, the formation of lights is said to just be the triangular ship stopped. It's just that it's black, it's dark out, and all you can see are the lights at the tip of the wings, you know, of each point.
How come?
No, see, this is hard because. No, first of all, I will say, from watching the video of it, especially when the internet first started to kick off in the early 2000s and you started to see stuff like this for the first time. We didn't see this in 97, right? No. But it was the closest thing to Independence Day I had seen. Because it is very ominous, just hanging over the place. And you can see it's just hanging over the place. And you can see this kind of glow off it, and it's creepy.
Yeah.
But at the same time then, I do know that the military have kind of declassified stuff to say that they were testing different stuff that night in the air, that they did have ships out there that were doing stuff like that, that they did have some sort of flare exercise that they were doing as well. No, they're going to say that. but the UFO guys that are coming out, you know, saying that the government know more than the conspiracists, all claim that in some of these, like that, and these are the guys who are hardcore into it, they say that it isn't all UFOs, that some of what we're seeing is technology that the military have that they're holding back on. Okay. And but then they claim that technology comes from back engineering ET extraterrestrial
from
ships.
when things land, when things crash land.
Because I think it was Bob Lazar that said that the stuff they had in Area 51, it was like, we're back engineering it, but the problem is we can't really back engineer it completely because we don't understand it. We don't have the technology. It's like something we can do eventually. But they apparently we got fiber optics from them. We got some other little bits and pieces that they passed on to us from back engineering
fiber
their stuff.
Optics.
That's what they say. But yeah, so it could be that the military are all testing this up because apparently they are 25 years ahead of what people think they're ahead of when it comes to technology.
So do you think they have hover cars?
I don't know. But here's a scary one. Apparently Russia have a weapon that they're dying to use.
The Americans are dying to use it, or the Russians are dying to use it? The
Russians have a big weapon, not atomic bomb big, not that devastating, but they have some sort of cool weapon that they are dying to use, but they're holding back for a big event.
I'm calling it now disintegration, right?
And they got
something
this
like that
from alien technology that came down in their country that they recovered.
Like a cloaking device. That's not a weapon.
I don't know. Other sightings would be 1980s. You had the Hudson Valley sightings. During the early 1980s, several hundred people claimed to have witnessed UFOs flying over or near to the Hudson River in New York State. These sightings involved hovering or slowly flying V-shaped objects rimmed with colourful lights. Several pilots claimed responsibility for these UFOs, reporting that the objects, some tracked to a local airport and parking lot, were ultralight aircraft flown in formation. I don't know.
Just biting so up to that one.
Yeah, but sometimes people don't own up to this shit anyway. Like, you know, these days, like, people will call drone and stuff like that. But I don't know in this case. I mean, are they pilots who work for the government? It never really specified.
Did they specify that they're human pilots?
I don't know. And do you know what's interesting here is the river part, though. Because, do you know how they're saying, like, lately there's these unidentified submerged objects, the ones that are going underwater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've seen a few of them.
The idea as well is that we can't make the machines function to go up in space and how to work them. So we're doing it down underwater, and it's dealing with the pressure underwater, and we're bringing them down there. Now, there's also the idea that the aliens are hiding down there. We don't know.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like that.
More when it comes to sightings in the sky, there is 1989 to 1982, the Belgian wave.
Another Belgian one.
Yeah, the Belgian UFO wave began in November 1989. The events of the 29th of November were documented by over 30 different groups of witnesses and 3 separate groups of police officers. And it's always a bit more serious when the cops come out and say it. Because as we'll see with Betty and Barney Hill later, when someone's got a reputable job and status to lose,
everything is a lot more believable.
What they're saying. All of the reports related to a large object flying at a low altitude. The craft was flat and triangular with lights underneath. This giant craft did not make a sound as it slowly moved across the landscape of Belgium. Now, that's not completely unbelievable because, number one, triangular seems to make sense. Because if you look at our planes, because of the way the wings are, the front is triangular, like, you know, so you have to think that theirs evolved from that kind of idea, and would become triangular maybe for, and I mean the point at the top for breaking through whatever kind of barrier you're trying to break through. I don't know, do you know, the same kind of idea of diving into water maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
I get you.
And so that makes sense to me that they're triangular. I was going to say something else there, and it slipped my mind because I was so busy talking about why they were triangular. I don't know. I'll think about it again later. It'll come to me. The Belgian UFO wave of 1989 to 1992, a neglected hypothesis, discussed some sightings that helicopters can explain. Most witnesses reported that the objects were silent. That's what I was going to talk about. To people back in the 80s or in the early 90s or even the 90s, the idea of a silent craft seemed, you know, a bit strange for them. Have you passed an electric car?
Sounds like a fucking UFO.
Do you know, I was only saying it last night to Riley. One of these cars passed, I was like, I was like, whoa.
That's like, that was the sound effects we heard when we were kids.
But I feel bad for the fucking wild animals around these days. They get killed by these cars that have no warning. You know, they don't hear the engine anymore. They can be quite dangerous,
though, even for humans, though. I mean, like, blind people, they need to be listening out for us. But deaf people would be able to hear that coming. Like, I'm hearing.
What do you mean deaf people? Deaf people can't hear anything coming.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know, like with hearing aids, would they be able to hear it, you know, like as loud because it's so fucking quiet? Like, yeah.
I don't know. So this report argues that the lack of noise could be due to engine noise in the witnesses' automobiles or the strong natural wind blowing away from the witnesses. So they're saying it was just so low with the wind that you couldn't actually hear it, which is possible. But I would assume if a big ship's going to make a loud noise, you're going to hear something. Black triangle UFOs have been claimed to be visible to radar. During 1989 to 1990, Belgian UFO wave, 2 Belgian Air Force F-16s attempted to intercept an object detected by radar, but the pilots did not report seeing an object. This entire Belgian UFO wave, however, has been disputed by skeptics. I never really heard about it, and there's nothing really concrete there. There's just a lot of, by the cops saying we saw something. Another smaller one was 2000 Southern Illinois incident, the St. Clair Triangle, UFO over Illinois, Southern Illinois UFO or Highland Illinois UFO sighting occurred on January 5th, 2000 over the towns of Highland, Dupo, Lebanon?
Yeah.
Really? Lebanon?
There's a Tarlis in there. There's a Paris, I mean.
Slough, Summerfield, Middlestadt, and O'Fallon, Illinois, beginning shortly after 4 a.m. Again, not a whole pile on that, just they saw stuff. That's about it. We can keep going on. There's obviously sightings and sightings and sightings and sightings. We're constantly seeing this stuff. What's interesting about all this stuff now is that places like America are coming out and saying, well, look, there is something up there. We're not 100% sure where it's coming from. Now, they would probably lean more to the idea of we don't know where it's coming from. it's probably from the Russians or the Chinese. Like they'd lean more to it's human made.
Yeah.
And it's an intelligent, because they'd always claim that they keep this stuff under their hat because it is most likely just another country with advanced technology that we don't know about yet. I don't know. Other people, though, would say it's our next topic, and that's our guys, the Greys. And everybody knows what the Greys look like, but we'll get into it anyway.
So, grey aliens, also referred to as Zeta Reticulans, Roswell Greys, or Greys, are purported extraterrestrial beings, and they are frequent subjects of close encounters and alien abduction claims, and the details of such claims vary widely. That said, Greys are typically described as being human-like with small bodies, smooth grey-coloured skin, enlarged hairless heads, and large black eyes.
A paedophile's dream.
Christ.
That's why they haven't come here. That's why they haven't left themselves known.
Bad men. The Barney and Betty Hill abduction claim, which purportedly took place in New Hampshire in 1961, popularised grey aliens. Precursor figures have been described in science fiction, and similar descriptions appeared in early accounts of the 1948 Aztec UFO hoax and later accounts of the 1947 Roswell UFO incident. The grey alien has emerged as an archetypal image of an intelligent non-human creature and extraterrestrial life in general, as well as an iconic trope of popular culture in the age of space exploration.
Yeah, basically they're in everything. The first thought you get when you think of alien is the grey.
Yeah. Exactly. And in their appearance, they're typically depicted as grey-skinned, diminutive humanoid beings that possess reduced forms of or completely lack external body parts, human body parts, such as noses, ears, or sex organs. Their bodies are usually depicted as being elongated, having a small chest, and lacking in muscular definition and visible skeletal structure. Their legs are depicted as being shorter and jointed differently from humans, with limbs proportionately different from a human.
Do you know, I never, ever thought about their sex organs.
No, neither have I.
It would be a lot more, not uncomfortable. It would be uncomfortable, but do you think it would be a bit more, put you off a little bit more if it came out with a big dick swinging? His balls dangling there.
No, I'd say it's very, what's the word for it? As in like bang and done, clinical. As in like, oh, you're pregnant, bye.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you think you're like animal kind of way thought on sex and stuff like that.
No, as
it move on.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem right to me that they would have any kind of sex organs. That it literally be just
freaks.
Maybe.
The grey sex parties. Eyes wide shut.
Oh, I'm thinking.
Walking around with those little masks on their face.
In drawings, greys are almost always shown with very large, opaque black eyes, and they are frequently described as shorter than average adult humans.
No, there's that's kind of disputed as well. Now, first of all, the black eyes, they're saying that could be a covering. Sort of like a protective lens that they have over their eyes to protect their actual eyes, because they don't reckon they can deal with the light from our sun or something to do with that. Do you remember we were watching that documentary with the alien interview, and they were saying that the room was darkened as well. We reckon the room was darkened because it was a puppet and they were trying to hide it. Yeah. They said it was darkened because the alien couldn't deal with the light. But that the black lens we see as their eyes is actually a cover.
Just like sunglasses.
Yeah, essentially. And when it comes to their height, that's disputed as well, because some people say that the smaller greys are like worker ants kind of job, and they work for the taller greys, and the taller greys are more intelligent kind of beings that boss these guys are. They're kind of like their overlords. Yeah. And I think, do you not see that in the Travis Walton story? Do you know, in the movie, and I think when he describes it, does he not say that they take off costume, or that what you think is the grey is actually just a costume, like an ectoskeleton kind of thing? And that's something we're going to see in our talk about the Alien series this week, that the engineers wore kind of ectoskeleton kind of things that looked biological, looked like they were really them, but actually when you came down to it and you took it off, it was a protective layer, you know. Yeah. Same as Independence Day. The alien is underneath it. You know what you think is the alien, when they split it open with the scalpel, it splits open. There's another alien inside there, you know. A smaller alien kind of running it. So there's that kind of thought as well, that that these that there's actually taller greys there, and smaller greys are working for them and all this kind of stuff, and that when they take this gear off, they're just normal looking kind of, maybe the Nordics in that case. But they do have a big association with Zeta Reticuli, and I always just thought that was a sci-fi word, and fake sci-fi place. I've been looking it up.
Zeta Reticuli.
The association between grey aliens and Zeta Reticuli originated with the interpretation of a map drawn by Betty Hill by a school teacher named Marjorie Fish sometime in 1969. We'll talk more about her later. Briefly, Betty Hill, under hypnosis, had claimed to have been shown a map that displayed the aliens' home system and nearby stars. Upon learning of this, Fish attempted to create a model from a drawing produced by Hill, eventually determining that the stars marked as the aliens' home were Zeta Reticuli, a binary star system. Zeta Reticuli is a wide binary star system in the southern constellation of Reticulum, so the back arse of nowhere, and that's why they call it Reticulum. Yep. From the southern hemisphere, the pair can be seen with the naked eye as a double star in very dark skies. So there's kind of two star systems here, two stars, big stars here, two suns, is it?
Yeah, if you're in that constellation, they would be the suns. But.
So based upon parallax measurements, this system is located at a distance of about 39.3 light years, which is 12 parsecs from Earth. I wonder how fast Han Solo could do it. Both stars are solar analogues that have characteristics similar to those of the sun. So I would have answered my question if I kept reading. They belong to the Zeta Hercules moving group of co-moving stars that share a common origin. Because the stars are similar to our sun, if an Earth-like planet were in orbit around the stars at the right distance, liquid water might be able to pool on the planet's surface, and the conditions might be right for life as we know it to flourish. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. Why do they stick to that, it has to be water? If things, form differently biologically on other planets, maybe other biological beings don't need water. Maybe there's another liquid. Maybe there's another, source of life. Just because we need water to survive doesn't mean that a biological, a species 10 million light years away needs water.
I 100% agree with you. I've always said the exact same thing. People are kind of not really thinking in the bigger picture, thinking outside of what we need to create. No, I would assume we're underthinking it. And I do think that a lot. Sometimes we say stuff and it's well, obviously there probably is a real reason behind it.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
they obviously know there has to be a certain combination of stuff to make life. And maybe they know for an absolute fact that without this, you can't do it. But I agree with what you're saying. Maybe something evolved differently to be able to survive in that climate or that circumstances.
But the scientists of NASA
have probably
we're not
caught
really
all this stuff. Educated enough to be able to answer
and
that
it's
question.
Just a curiosity. Why do we all...
I get you. And I think that's, again, I have pointed out, I think that's what this show is. It's just going down a rabbit hole with us.
Yeah.
And, seeing what we find. It's just anything and everything. And this is the same here. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, that's I suppose, as you said there as well, in that it does say life as we know it.
Oh, well, yeah. Sorry. So sorry, you're right.
It will be in the terms of how we
humans, yeah.
So in 1986, astronomers announced the potential presence of a so-called hot Jupiter exoplanet, sexy-ass Jupiter it was, as a gas giant similar to Jupiter, but much closer to its star than Jupiter is to the Sun in orbit around Zeta 2. It had seemingly been detected due to observations of the star's wobble, which can often be attributed to the gravitational pull of a planet in orbit around a star. See? They call it hot Jupiter because of that wobble, man. This was eventually retracted. Then in 2007, infrared observations with the Spitzer Space Telescope showed evidence of a dusty disk of cosmic debris surrounding star Zeta 2, the same sort of disk out of which planets could potentially form. Herschel Space Observatory data in 2010 confirmed the presence of a disk around the star, but revealed that the disk was asymmetrical in structure. I don't know what that means. Someone who understands this stuff might be able to tell me. I assume asymmetrical is bad for life.
Asymmetrical means it can't double over on itself. Asymmetrical. When something's symmetrical, it can be halved on itself. Confirm the presence of a disk around the star, but reveal that the disk is... I think it just means that it might be a flattened, kind of a disc that's slightly flattened, because a slightly flattened disc isn't going to fold over on itself perfectly. Do you know what that means? Whereas if it's a perfect circle, it'll fold over on itself perfectly.
I don't know if that makes any difference to life. But okay. Then in 2018, a paper was released to show no common proper motion between the lobed structure of the disc and Zeta 2, suggesting asymmetry wasn't caused by a planet in orbit. So they actually thought that the asymmetry was caused by a planet. To date, no exoplanet has been confirmed around either star. So that's them saying that it's possible.
It couldn't. There couldn't be a planet in an asymmetrical ring, because the planet would have to orbit. Do you know what I'm saying? So it'd be going around in that kind of like slightly flattened circle. But if that ring is like, say, kind of like a lot flatter on one side around the star, there's obviously no exoplanet going around properly in orbit, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, okay. So not pulling it to be
a planet,
shape.
like, yeah.
Okay, I get you. Yeah, it makes some sense. It's the most sense we've been able to make so far, so we're going with it.
Is what I think. That's what I get from it.
What they basically said, though, about this system is that it has the potential to have a planet like ours on it, but they can't say if there is or isn't to this point. So far, there's been no proof that they haven't found one.
Okay.
But there is still more study going on this, because we only watched a documentary about Betty and Barney Hill last night. It was done in 2022, and their niece is still studying this stuff, and she reckons that they're after making a bit of a breakthrough on that kind of thing as well. So I'm not 100% sure. In an interview for a television documentary, Bob Lazar, the man who first described Area 51 as a secret UFO research facility, suggested that the UFO, which he claimed to have helped reverse engineer, may have come from the vicinity of Zeta Reticuli. Another theory which involves Zeta Reticuli is the claim that there was a secret exchange program, Project Serpo, of 12 men from Earth traveling to Serpo, allegedly a planet in Zeta Reticuli. This is my dream, Amy. This is what I want to do. This sounds awesome. They got to go there. They got to come back. I wish I could do this. How long does it take
to travel there, though? Is it?
I would assume this is the whole wormhole-y thing of they know how to travel quicker than we do, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into this, because this is interesting. Project Serpo is an alleged top-secret exchange program between the United States government and an alien planet called Serpo in the Zeta Reticuli star system. Details of the alleged exchange program have appeared in several UFO conspiracy stories, including one incident in 1983 in which a man identified himself as United States Air Force Sergeant Richard C. Dottie contacted investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, yeah, that's right, claiming to be able to supply her Air Force records of the exchange for her HBO documentary, The E.T. Factor, only to pull out without providing any evidence to substantiate his story. And one incident in 2005 when a series of emails were sent to a UFO discussion group run by Victor Martinez claiming that the project was real. Some variations on the conspiracy story state that the name Serpo is a nickname of an extrasolar planet. Other versions state that it is a mispronunciation of either Serponia or Sinew by authorities involved in the project. The first mention of Project Serpo was an UFO email list maintained by enthusiast Victor Martinez. Various versions of the conspiracy theory circulated and were later detailed on a website. According to the most common version of the story, an alien survived a crash near Roswell in late 1940s. This is the same alien we were talking about from the Alien Interview documentary. Yeah. Apparently these greys as well, this is where there was more dispute on top of dispute, because let alone was there the problem of whether to believe whether aliens are real or not. When the aliens actually came in, they didn't know whether to believe what was being said to them was real or not, because they were pretty sure, because the alien didn't communicate to them verbally, that the alien was able to communicate telepathically. So they got human telepaths, claimed telepaths, to come in and talk to the alien through their minds. So everything they think the alien said came from a human telepath who said that the alien said this. So let alone is it murky enough when you hear, they have an alien for an interview, then it's murky even more, because this most likely con man is sitting there going, the alien
is their fucking translator.
The alien believes you should give me €1 million right now. Well, yeah, so We've talked about the fact that there was an alien as well that was supposed to be behind after Roswell. We've talked about Roswell before.
Yeah.
And there was kind of talk that one of them did survive and that they hung around the base for a while. In this case, in this documentary, they said they were around for a few years and were kind of tipping away there and working away with them, helping them out as best they could. And they were developing a language between them, like using pictures and sounds and kind of stuff to try and develop a language. Still all in the head, so I don't know. It's so fucking murky. Everybody has a different thing to say about it. It's so hard.
Yep.
This alien was detained but treated well by American military forces, contacted its home planet, and eventually repatriated. Fucking hell, for fucking going to another. That's weird saying that about an alien, to be honest with you. The story continues by claiming that this led to an establishment of some sort of relationship between the American government and the people of its homeworld, said to be a planet of the binary star system Zeta Reticuli. Now again, the documentary you watched said that there was a kind of this exchange, not an exchange program of us going to them, but them coming down to us, and they had their own little unit on Area 51 to work away. And he was talking about what actually ruined it for him was that there was this one case where they came and there was a Mars Attack style incident where the aliens misinterpreted what the humans or soldiers were saying to them or what they were getting at, and then at the same time there was only certain people supposed to go to them, but there was some soldiers there with guns on their waist and all that stuff, sidearms and stuff like that, and when they saw that they weren't happy, and the aliens walked away and these guys were found dead, and then the aliens up and left after that for a while. So I don't know. The story finally claims that 12 American military personnel visited the planet between 1965 and 1978, and that all of the party had since died from after effects of high radiation levels from the two suns. Maybe I don't want to do this. Yep. I am sorry I didn't remember this when I was doing the Planet of the Apes series. Another version of the story claims that 8 team members returned on the 7-month trek home. So that's not bad. 7 months, that's okay. I wonder if they have stasis like in every other sci-fi thing, so you can just go to sleep for those 7 months.
I would imagine if they did, maybe they would have said that they were in stasis for the 7 months.
Team member 308, Team Pilot 2 is his alternative number, died of a pulmonary embolism en route to Serpo on the 9-month journey. So it's 9 months to get there, 7 months home. That doesn't make much sense. 11 arrived safely. 1 died on the planet and both of their bodies were returned to Earth, while 2 others decided to remain on the alien homeworld of Serpo. So we got 2 people in Serpo.
They probably, well, I mean, like if they're there with the double sun constantly.
Yeah, but if you're now a citizen in Serpo and these people are like, oh, we got 2 humans, so you're probably high up on the fame list in Serpo, you know, as being the only 2 humans that are remaining there. So you're probably like in the political world and all that. And their technology is better than us. Do they have the cures?
Maybe.
Do you know?
Maybe.
And as far as I know, these aliens are supposed to live a really long time. So do they have ways of making us live longer? Because we'll discuss it again. We discuss it on the main show, but we could discuss it a little bit here. The idea that these aliens are actually our creators and we are, you know, based on... coming from they're like in a more evolved version of us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then there's ideas that they're actually time travelers and they are us from the future coming back, you know?
Okay.
So one criticism of Project Serpo stems from the lack of veracity. Veracity is a verification of one of its alleged witness, Sergeant Richard Dotty. Dotty had been involved in other alleged UFO-related activities, like Majestic 12, and thus is a discredited source or purposeful. I'm falling all over the place here. Provider of disinformation. I think I had a little mini stroke there for a second.
Josh!
Additionally, there is no physical evidence supporting the project's existence. According to Tim Schwartz of Mysteries Magazine, Dotty, who promised evidence to Molten How before backing out, has been involved in circulating several other UFO conspiracy stories. Schwartz also expressed that the details of Project Serpo have varied considerably with different accounts. It has been alleged that the entire series of posts were designed to be viral marketing for a new book by Dotty. I'll have to look that up. Mm-hmm. Now, the other idea as well is if Dotty did work for the government, is that back in, after Roswell in kind of the 60s, 70s, 80s, when they knew that the aliens were there and they didn't think we'd be able to handle it, because again, the thought is you're coming out of World War II. And then it's like, well, do we want to give them all this information right now? Or are they going to panic? That they like put around kind of misinformation, you know, so they'd put out these stories just so people could laugh at them and pull them apart and discredit them, so that it would make UFOlogy and aliens and all this stuff seem ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
Bill Ryan, a chief proponent of publicising the project Serpo, claims announced on March 5th, 2007 that he was stepping down from his role as webmaster for Serpo material. Ryan nevertheless maintains his belief that an extraterrestrial exchange program did occur, although he states that the Serpo releases definitely contain disinformation. So the next thing we are going to talk about is, I thought I had this up in front of me, 1 second. Yes, right here. Yes. Ike and the alien ambassador. So we're going to talk about David Icke here for a second. I'm sorry, I thought I had this already to go.
I had it open. I just thought that because you didn't have it open, maybe we weren't talking.
I don't know why I didn't have it open. And it's actually, you're going reading it, are you?
Yes, I am.
You have it open.
I do.
Oh, I know what this is. This is I thought we were going to talk about David Icke. It's Dwight Eisenhower. This links in here because, again, an exchange program. This isn't so much it's an exchange program. This is more information for people in this scenario. But do you want to go for it?
Yes. So this is Ike and the Alien Ambassadors, and it was published in the Washington Post
in 2004. So they're going to say a lot of tomorrows and this day and that day. It was in 2004.
Yeah. Exactly. So 50 years ago tomorrow in 2004, on February 20th, 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower interrupted his vacation in Palm Springs, California, to make a secret nocturnal trip to a nearby Air Force base to meet 2 extraterrestrial aliens. Or maybe not. Maybe Ike just went to the dentist. There's some dispute about this. The Ike met with ET's theory is advanced by Michael Salla, a former American University professor who now runs the Peace Ambassador Program at AU's Center for Global Peace. The Ike went to the dentist theory is advanced by the folks at Dwight D. Eisenhower Library in Abilene, Kansas, and by James, I would think so, and by James N. Mixon, a dentist, professor of dentistry, and historian of presidential dental work. What a job. Just to make things more intriguing, on the night in question, the Associated Press reported this. President Eisenhower died tonight of a heart attack in Palm Springs.
That's mental, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Plus, that is a mental job. You're not even just the president's dentist, you're the historian of the presidential dental work.
The only thing that I know historically about the US president's teeth is that George Washington had fake ones. But everybody knows that. I'm at a loss to see a whole career from this book.
Well, yeah, so they did. So he was announced dead that night, which is crazy, isn't it?
But 2 minutes later, the AP retracted the bulletin and reported that Ike was still alive. Indeed, Ike was alive, and he continued living until 1969. But in the decades since his death, his activities on the night of February 20th, 1954 have become fodder for strange theories about alien beings. Some facts are beyond dispute. Eisenhower was on a golf vacation in Palm Springs on February 20th, 1954. After dinner that night, he made an unscheduled departure from the Smoking Tree Ranch where he was staying. The next morning, he attended a church service in Los Angeles. Also that morning, his spokesman even announced to the press that Ike had visited a dentist that previous night because he chipped a tooth while eating a chicken wing at dinner. Salla, who has a PhD in government from the University of Queensland in his native Australia, doesn't believe it. He figures the dentist trip is just a cover story, and he believes Ike went to Edwards Air Force Base where he met with 2 ETs with white hair, pale blue eyes, and colourless lips. These aliens, nicknamed Nordics in UFO circles because they resemble Scandinavian humans, travelled to Edwards from another solar system in a flying saucer, and Salla says they spoke to Eisenhower. There was telepathic communication, says Salla, 45, as he sits in his suburban Falls church living room. It's as though you're hearing a person, but they're not speaking.
See, this is what I would think as well, that if they can speak telepathically, they can probably do it to anybody. We don't need a special telepathic human going into it.
Oh, yeah, I don't think, exactly. They can, That was ridiculous. The Nordics offered to share their superior technology and their spiritual wisdom with Ike if he would agree to eliminate America's nuclear weapons. They were afraid we might blow some up some of our nuclear technology, Salla says. And apparently that does something to time and space, and it impacts on extraterrestrial races on other planets. Ike declined the ET's offer, Salah says, because he did not want to give up the nukes.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. Well, who do you trust, like?
Yeah, I mean, there's some theories there as well, because they do seem to show up when we are messing with nukes. And they apparently are able to turn off the nukes at times as well when they don't like that they're being used. The theory is that they're not really there to protect us or stop us from killing ourselves, but they're trying to stop us from destroying the world.
And ripping a hole in the...
Because they'll eventually come down to use this world for one thing or another. And it's not us, it's what the world provides. Maybe a new home for them or something, I don't know.
Sometime later in 1954, Ike reached a deal with another race of extraterrestrials known as the Greys, allowing them to capture Earthling cattle and humans for medical experiments, provided that they returned the humans safely home. Since then, Salah says, the Greys have kidnapped millions of humans.
But hear me out. We got podcasts and Wi-Fi out of it.
That is true. Salah, author of The Hero's Journey Toward a Second American Century, published his ET theories in his new book, Exopolitics, Political Implications of the Extraterrestrial Presence, and in an article on his Exopolitics website.
Someday that's going to be a class in college.
Exopolitics.
Isn't that mental?
For much of the 90s, Salah studied conflict resolution and tried unsuccessfully to apply that knowledge to prevent war in East Timor and the Balkans, he says. Frustrated, he began looking for an extraterrestrial connection to human misery, and he says he found evidence of ET visitations, including the Ike encounter, on the internet.
Oh, that's your fucking source.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff on the internet, he says, quite rightly. And I just went around and pieced it together. Jeez. Meanwhile, he taught at the School of International Service at American University. In 2003, he founded the university's Peace Ambassador program, described on the AU website as a summer program that combines study, meditative practices, and prayer ceremonies at selected Washington, D.C. sites aimed at promoting individual self-empowerment and divine government in Washington, D.C. Salah stresses that his ET research is not connected with his work at AU's Centre for Global Peace. The folks at the Centre for Global Peace are also quite eager to stress that fact.
I think that's enough on him, isn't it? Lots there.
Once we said it about the internet,
I was just like, kind of, yeah. I just wanted to get the Ike part. Because that is a big one that goes around, and that's why there is so many abductions, or why abductions took a big uptake after the 50s until fairly recently. I don't know, do you hear about a lot of people getting abducted anymore? I don't hear about it. You don't really hear it. Not since we were kids. The 90s seemed to be the end of the abduction era.
Is it because people are so ready to believe it now that it doesn't seem like as shocking anymore? It's like, yeah, well, aliens obviously do exist.
Well, I assume the people who were being abducted though will be screaming out, going, I was abducted, and we're not hearing it. Unless they're all like Kate McKinnon's character when she's abducted from Saturday Night Live now, and it's just all
The thing is, if there's millions going... Oh, yeah, Kate McKinnon's character. But if there's millions going, well, then obviously their memories are being erased. They're Men in Black in them, or else we'd have millions of people.
Yeah, they'd have to be, wouldn't they? Because, I mean, I was reading about it someplace. I don't know, maybe it's coming up here soon, but people were comparing it to rape. Like sexual assault, like in the trauma factor of it, because you're being taken, being held on, and stuff being jabbed in and out of you all over the place, and tests are being run.
I think we'll go into Betty and Brainy Hill in a few minutes, and there was a few tests run on him, like, that made him genuinely paranoid that there was something done to his genitals when he got home, like. Yeah. Before
we get to them, though, we got the most controversial aliens. The ones with the weirdest fucking conspiracy theories attached to them, and that is reptilians.
And another Ike.
Yes.
Reptilians, also called reptoids, archons, reptiloids, saurians, draconians, or lizard people, are supposed reptilian humanoids which play a prominent role in fantasy, science fiction, ufology, and conspiracy theories. The idea of reptilians was popularized by David Icke, an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist who claims shape-shifting reptilian aliens control Earth by taking on human form and gaining political power to manipulate human societies. Icke has stated on multiple occasions that many world leaders are or are possessed by so-called reptilians.
You said something to me last day, and you turned to me when we were writing this, and you were like, should I say, I'm going to take out that anti-Semitic part.
I hadn't done enough background.
I was only kind of half listening because I was doing something, and I missed the name of who we were talking about, and I was like, yeah, whatever, cool. And then I was putting this bit together today, and I looked and I was like, this is who she was talking about. Yes, David Icke is anti-Semitic. He reckons it's the Jews that are the lizard people. There's no point. You don't need to hold that back.
Okay. According to Icke, who first published on this theme in his 1999 work, The Biggest Secret, tall, blood-drinking, shape-shifting reptilian humanoids from the Alpha Draconis star system are now hiding in underground bases and are the force behind a worldwide conspiracy against humanity. See, this is very clever, their star system. And I was explaining that to you yesterday. So our North Star wasn't always the North Star that we have now. It used to be Tuban, but it's in the Alpha Draconis star system. So if he's able to link it back to ancient aliens, he's going to obviously... There you go. He contends with, and he'd be able to link it back because that's where the pyramids used to point. He contends that most of the world's ancient and modern leaders are related to these reptilians, including the Merovingian dynasty, the Rothschilds, the Bush family, and the British royal family. Some conspiracy theorists espousing the extraterrestrial hypothesis claim that they either come from the Draco constellation or the Orion constellation, or are allies with nefarious extraterrestrials from the Orion constellation.
Oh, I should have looked them up. Fuck. Go on.
Others claim that they are interdimensional, coming from another universe or dimension. Draco is a constellation in the far northern sky, and its name is Latin for dragon. It was one of the 48 constellations listed by the 2nd century Greek astronomer Ptolemy, and remains one of the 88 modern constellations today. The north pole of the ecliptic is Draco. Even. Draco is circumpolar from the northern latitudes, meaning that it never sets and can be seen at any time of the year.
So this is another one where they say they're coming from. I never realised there was so many constellations and systems close to us that they were living in. Oh, yeah. I always wondered, I was like, well, they ain't in any of our planets. We know that. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm going to do next is I have found an entire fandom page here on Reptillions. And I'll tell you now, if you don't like this, you ain't going to like this week's episode. Ooh. So, Reptoids, aka, we went through all them already. Oh, there's an extra one here. Tragzizians.
I think there was a reason that wasn't on my list.
So they're believed to be a serpent humanoid race of bipedal reptiles which live secretly on Earth, often infiltrated and disguised among humans. Having figured in the mythology of numerous different cultures throughout history, they're still commonly reported in both cryptozoology and ufological cases, and have been the subject of conspiracy theories and paranormal investigations for decades. Paranormal investigations? Why would you... Well, I suppose it is paranormal. It's not normal.
That is certainly true.
Currently, there exist numerous hypotheses about the potential origin of these creatures, ranging from extraterrestrial to extra-dimensional, to beings actually descendant from dinosaurs which survived the the extinction event. We're not even going to say that big long word. I said this to you last day. Did I not turn around to you last day? I was like, I was just wondering. What would have happened if the dinosaurs hadn't died out? Would they have evolved into something like us? Would they have eventually shrunk and grown arms and bigger brains and all this kind of thing? And apparently they did. See? Way ahead of them.
But where did we get chickens from, so?
That's misinformation to put us off the reptilians. Commonly believed ideas include that these intelligent creatures are naturally underground dwellers and still operate in the subterranean areas, but are also capable of infiltrating human society by disguising themselves, possibly to prey upon humans as a natural food source, or to control their political and sociological development by assuming the identities of important heads of state. Some believe they came from Tuban, also known as Alpha Draconis, a binary star system in the northern constellation of Draco. In ufology, there are many...
so he's saying that they actually come from that old North Star.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
There are many different types of reptoids, such as, but not limited to, greys. Oh, the greys are seen as reptoids. Bellatricians, Saurins, and interdimensional Timatians. There is some conjecture that the Anunnaki also fall into this category. The Anunnaki we are going to cover eventually, fucking Planet X and Zachariah Stitching in the works. All really interesting, all really complicated, but, it's fun. So, the biology of these guys, although some variations exist among the reports, these creatures are almost invariably described as human-sized, lizard-like bipeds, all covered in scaly skin and often with a long tail. Their shape-shifting skills might represent either a natural camouflaging ability, a mental capacity to generate illusions, or technological achievement. Like the majority of reptiles, they're often regarded as meat eaters and may have a preference for consuming human flesh. So basically, they're Killer Croc from Batman.
Nice.
I always heard they could be really tall, though. Like, fucking 9 foot tall.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking of a Predator? I've been reading way too much stuff about different aliens this week. As stated above, there exists an advanced reptilian species that is said to live in underground bases on Earth. Some of the dwellings are considered to be highly advanced cities with huge monorail systems that connect the various points throughout the Earth, like the poles and Mount Shasta. Their entry points are marked by the Ouroboros symbol that serves as a warning to all humans to vacate the premises immediately. So essentially, this is like Godzilla versus Kong, fucking Hollow Earth theory. Yeah. I don't know what the hell is going on in Hollow Earth, because the Nazis are supposed to be down there too. The reptoids who bear the Ouroboros symbol represent the reptilians who have colonized Venus, the Moon, Mars, and 4 moons of Jupiter and Saturn. So we know this isn't true because we have stuff on Mars. We've seen pictures of the place. It is not well, unless they're living underground.
Maybe.
Fuck. These fucking UFO people have this stuff sewn up. There are 7 colonies represented by the 7 stars wrapped in an encircling dracon of the Ouroboros. Conspiracy theorists like David Icke claim that the reptoids are conquerors who want to take over and either destroy or enslave other planets. He says that they are part of every royal bloodline and are part of the bloodline of every US president. In 1934, a man found 2 golden tablets under Los Angeles and was said to be part of the Serpo people who planned on infiltrating the human race and taking over the world. I need to look this the fuck up. 2 golden tablets. Amy, check it.
Under where is San Francisco?
Los Angeles.
Oh, Los Angeles.
1934. So have a look at that. So is when Ike is saying that they're in the bloodline, are they saying that these the royals and the presidents, they're not really full-blooded reptilians? They're hybrids, maybe.
Hybrids, yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Because it doesn't sound... So maybe they don't even know they are what they are, you know? Types of reptoids. There's the elders. The most ancient of ancients are the royal elite line of reptoids. They range from 7 feet to 10 feet tall, I knew it, and can weigh up to 1,800 pounds. Their appearance is what may have inspired dragons, demons, and devils in mythology and folklore. Their current locations are likely subterranean, assuming that they are not extinct. So this is why they're claiming that these elders, the older reptilians, could be where we got the idea for dragons and shit. That they are that big, that angry. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The greys, which we just finished talking about, were 3 to 6 foot tall, but some grow as tall as 8 foot. According to some sources, the greys are also considered reptoids having reptilian DNA. Oh, great, we got a DNA test. I never knew that. The Anunnaki are known to have genetically modified the royal line of greys, known as Zetas, with human DNA to look more human. These greys were installed as kings and pharaohs by the Anunnaki throughout mankind's history. The Greys, who are inducted into the Orion program, otherwise known as Orion Greys, are under the direction of the Cabal, often engage in abductions and experimentations. The Greys, however, are originally known as Solopis Rei, who are a benevolent and curious race when not indoctrinated. They are thought to be more helpful in humanity's spiritual progression. The relationship between reptoids and greys are very strained as reptoids on their goal of conquering planets have enslaved the greys. So again, they're saying the greys aren't the problem here. It's what I said earlier on about them having an overlord, and the overlord is the reptilians.
Yep.
That's all really fucking interesting, to be honest with you. I can't really wait to get into that. But that's why I was holding them back on the Anunnaki stuff. That is more ancient alien.
Okay.
That's really into the Egyptian stuff. So I think what we might do is wait until you are doing something Egyptian on Playing with Bones, and we'll stick right in there with the Anunnaki and fuck it all up.
We have to wait at least 12 weeks.
So the Saurians have ties to human history and have influenced Semitic script. They have been living amongst humans since the beginning of their inception. Millions of years ago, Saurians looked more crocodilian and had defensive tails. As they evolved, they became more human-like, many having lost their tails, and some even developing hair follicles, mainly on the scalp. Their evolution has not only made them intelligently superior, but also telepathic. They are known to have brought civilization to humanity. So these are the guys I think that they're saying are like the, again, ancient alien gods, like the Egyptian gods and stuff like that. The Timadians, according to some researchers, the reptoids have evolved on Earth in the Cretaceous period, where they were not the original race, but were seeded by a far more advanced race of interdimensional reptiles being known as the Timadians. So the lizard people that are here and aliens, they were put here by interdimensional other aliens who were similar to them. And yeah, okay. No. The Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are 9 foot tall. Some associate the Anunnaki with also being reptilian due to much of the reptilian influence observed in Sumerian culture. However, this may be misclassification. The Saurians did not like the Anunnaki. They objected to the Anunnaki genetically modifying Earth humanoids to become more human than human. What? The Saurians also described the Anunnaki as being tall, white, blonde, and blue-eyed, a description not traditionally befitting the reptilians. So the Saurians say the Anunnaki are the Nordics. Am I getting that right? The Nordics, it sounds like the Nordics.
That's what it sounds like.
Because the apparent dislike for Anunnaki, it is suspected that the Saurians may have been the Anunnaki enslaved in 2,500 years. Thus, it would seem likely that Sumerian culture was influenced by Saurian watchers as they represented in the reptilian art. Fucking hell. This is hard. I'm not done yet. One more last one. But this is what the next 2 weeks are going to be like on the main show. Draconians. The largest of the reptoids. They're anywhere from 14 to 20 foot tall, which is really large compared to the normal reptoids. Very
big. That's like alien.
Oh yeah. The last one. Because the regular ones are only 6 to 8 foot tall.
Christ.
So, some sources claim that Draconians, aka Dracos, represent the Saurians that left the Earth to colonize the Draco constellation, eventually giving rise to the hostile Draconian Empire. They are also been known as the Sikar, also spelled Psykar. Okay. It has been claimed that these sinister creatures are literally sustained by the fear of the races they have subjugated. Oh my god, this is fucking awesome. And how they all tie in. It's like they're not all separate theories. They're theories that tie into more theories, that tie into more theories, that tie into more. And these guys live on fear. I mean, Jesus Christ, how badass do you get? And they particularly enjoy feeding on children. So is that children fear or just children?
I don't know.
Are these just the guys from fucking Monsters, Inc?
If it's children's fear, it's just the guy from Monsters, Inc.
Can we just tell them that if they make them laugh, it'll be a lot better? Additionally, they have been described as a hive-based society, with the warriors being ruled over by seldom-seen elite caste which never leave their capital world. This elite is sometimes depicted with wings similar to the aforementioned elders. This is crazy. This is obviously where they got the whole fucking alien thing from. And you will see that by listening to this week's episode.
Yes.
Like their ancestors, the Draconians typically operate from subterranean outposts and are masters of conquering worlds by secret manipulation of figureheads. So they sound very similar to what the Predators are, except the Predators want to go fighting and these guys want to be all sneaking around the place and taking over shit. But yeah, that's mental. That is way crazier than I thought it was going to be. I didn't read that before we got into it, to be honest with you.
Really?
No. Caught me by surprise. I enjoyed it, though. I can't wait to get into the Anunnaki, and their fucking blood feud with the Sumerians and whatever the fuck Iggy is that they were enslaved for 2,500 years. Okay, forget about them. We got one last thing to talk about, and that's our main event. That's Betty and Barney Hill. So we're just going to go through their story and comment away as we go.
Betty and Barney Hill lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Barney was employed by the United States Postal Service while Betty was a social worker. Active in the local Unitarian congregation, the Hills were also members of the NAACP and community leaders, and Barney sat on a local board of the United States Commission on Civil Rights. According to a variety of reports given by the Hills, the alleged UFO sighting happened at around 10:30 p.m. on September 19th, 1961. The Hills were driving back to Portsmouth from a vacation in Niagara Falls and Montreal. Just south of Lancaster, New Hampshire, Betty claimed to have observed a bright point of light in the sky that moved from below the moon and planet Jupiter upward to the west of the moon even. While Barney navigated US Route 3, Betty reasoned that what she was observing was a falling star, only it moved upward. Because it moved erratically and grew bigger and brighter, Betty urged Barney to stop the car for a closer look, as well as to walk their dog, Delcy. Barney stopped the car at a scenic picnic area just south of Twin Mountain.
Now, he kind of, didn't they say in a documentary, this is kind of the point where they thought it was going to go in, next thing it comes out from over the trees or some shit.
Yeah.
Did you see the picture he drew of it?
Yeah.
And he's got the little guys there. And that was the concept that creeped me out the most about it, right?
Yeah.
About when they're stopped there. And they know at this point this thing has been following them because of the length of time they drove. It was something like 30 miles or something like that they drove.
Something like that, yeah.
Them, and they had intentionally tried to kind of go different paths to kind of put it off. And they're there. And not the idea of seeing the ship. Seeing the ship, I feel like I'd be overwhelmed. Seeing people staring out of the ship at me would suddenly like bring this cold fear over me as like they're looking at me.
Absolutely.
They are coming for me.
Yeah.
But it's...
Betty, looking through binoculars, observed an odd-shaped craft flashing multicoloured lights travel across the face of the moon. Because her sister had several years earlier said that she had seen a flying saucer, Betty thought it might be what she was observing. Through binoculars, Barney observed what he reasoned was a commercial airliner travelling toward Vermont on its way to Montreal. However, he soon changed his mind because without looking as if it had turned, the craft rapidly descended in his direction. This observation caused Barney to realise this object was the object that was a plane was not a plane. Even.
Well, the thing about that's the other thing that kind of makes them seem like credible witnesses is Barney is tried. He's hardest to discredit reason for what this is. So it's like we can find there's something here that this is
exactly.
You know, this can't be aliens. This is ridiculous. Even they said afterwards when they were in the car and they realised that there had been a big time jump and they didn't know why they were there and they started talking about what had happened.
Yeah.
And she asked Barney, like, I've heard him say this, like, this is from his mouth. He said, like, she asked me that I believe in UFOs now, and I laughed and said, come on, be real, be serious.
Yeah, exactly. The Hills said that they continued driving on the quiet and isolated road, moving very slowly through Franconia Notch in order to observe the object as it came even closer. At one point, the object passed above a restaurant and signal tower on top of Cannon Mountain and came out near the Old Man of the Mountain. Betty testified that it was at least 1.5 times the length of the granite cliff profile, which was 40 feet long, and it seemed to be rotating. The couple watched as the silent, illuminated craft moved erratically and bounced back and forth in the night sky. About 1 mile south of Indian Head, they said the object rapidly descended toward their vehicle, causing Barney to stop in the middle of the highway. The huge silent craft hovered about 80 to 100 feet above the Hills' 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air and filled the entire field of view of the windshield. It reminded Barney of a huge pancake. Carrying his pistol in his pocket, he stepped away from the vehicle and moved closer to the object, and using the binoculars, he claimed to have seen 8 to 11 humanoid figures who were peering out at the craft's window, seeming to look at him. In unison, all but one figure moved to what appeared to be a panel on the rear of the hallway that encircled the front portion of the craft. The one remaining figure continued to look at Barney and communicated a message telling him to stay where you are and keep looking.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, I would feel like somebody's about to stab me in the back or something. Barney had a recollection of observing the humanoid forms wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps. Red lights on what appeared to be batwing fins began to telescope out of the sides of the craft, and a long structure descended from the bottom of the craft. The silent craft approached to what Barney estimated was within 50 to 80 feet overhead and 300 feet away from him. On October 21st, 1961, Barney reported to National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena investigator Walter Webb that the beings were somehow not human.
So he could feel that there was something off about them.
Exactly.
Do you know what really stands out here to me, though? The black hats.
Oh, I was just thinking it seems kind of kinky with their glasses.
But that's all I can see. All I can see is that traditional fucking biker kind of gay bar biker look, you know, with the leather chaps, the leather waistcoat, the big moustache, and the leather hat. And they're coming at him. And it's the South Park aliens too that's wearing it. So
arriving home at about dawn, the Hills stated that they had some odd sensations and impulses that they could not readily explain. Betty insisted that her luggage should be kept at the back door rather than in the main part of the house. Their watches would never work again. Barney said that the leather strap for the binoculars was torn, although he could not recall tearing it.
Oh, I'm telling you, they got impulses, the leather strap is torn. Betty gets turned on by abduction. That's what happened here.
The toes of his best dress shoes were scraped. Barney says he was compelled to examine his genitals in the bathroom, though he found nothing unusual, and they took long showers to remove possible contamination, and each drew a picture of what they had observed.
That seemed to be their biggest worry coming out of this.
Contamination.
Yeah. Afterwards, it's like, it wasn't so much we should report this so that they know there was aliens. It was like, we should report this because we could be contaminated. Our car could be contaminated. We need to get checked.
We don't know what diseases are out there in space.
But they did try, we'll talk about it in a minute, but they did try to examine it kind of. But go for it.
Perplexed, the Hills say that they tried to reconstruct the chronology of events as they witnessed the UFO and drove home. But immediately after they heard the buzzing sounds, their memories became incomplete and fragmented. After sleeping for a few hours, Betty awoke and placed the shoes and clothing she had worn during the drive into her closet, observing that the dress was torn at the hem, zipper, and lining. Later, when she retrieved the items for her closet, she noticed a pinkish powder on her dress. She hung the dress on her clothesline and the pink powder blew away, but the dress was irreparably damaged. She threw it away, but then changed her mind, retrieved the dress and hung it in her closet. And over the years, 5 laboratories have conducted chemical and forensic analysis on the dress.
Okay, well that fucks my theory up.
What was your theory?
I had a theory, right? Because, this is the 60s.
Yeah.
They are, what's the word for it when you're
interracial couple?
Interracial. I was trying to think. I was saying biracial. That's not right. Interracial couple in the 60s. So it's difficult enough because that was, another point on their side was it's difficult enough for you. You don't really want to make it harder for yourself by being the alien people.
Yeah.
But I started to wonder when I was listening to them talk yesterday, was there a possibility? Because obviously they say later that Barney had been watching an alien show, what was it? Outer Limits?
Outer Limits, yeah.
And there was an alien episode on there, and the alien he described was very close to what he'd seen on the TV. And I had this theory that because of the way they were all scuffed up and stuff like that, and the way they were going washing themselves and worried about stuff, was she sexually assaulted in front of him, and this is their way of dealing with the trauma? Do you know?
I understand. Yeah, no, I understand.
Did they come across
it's a very good theory, but
did they come across some gang that were picked on them because they were interracial and because she was the white girl, they attacked her for being with him? And did they deal with the trauma by coming up with this fictional story in there, this fantasy story in their head, and change what it was about? Because it's an awful lot of them both being poked and prodded around that area. Their clothes are all messed up. They're not remembering. And when Barney does eventually remember the stuff he saw, he's fucking howling when he's in that.
I've heard him.
Under hypnosis. Like, he is crying and screaming and he's scared. It was just a theory I had, and I hadn't seen anybody else put it forward. And I was just like, there was a lot of hate crime, especially when he would have been seen as a target for hate crime. Was that something that could have passed? But then there's the fact that this dress has been tested multiple times. We even saw on that documentary one of the guys saying he had tested the dress himself. So we know there was no signs of that on there because someone would have picked up on that straight away.
Exactly.
You know?
And there were also shiny concentric circles on their car's trunk that had not been there the previous day. And Betty and Bernie experimented with a compass, noting that when they moved it close to the spots, the needle would whirl rapidly. But when they moved it a few inches away from the shiny spots, it would drop down.
And some expert was talking about this as well on the documentary. He was saying, like, if they were close to the engine or something like that, or close to
the
something,
battery in
the battery, then yeah, there was a certain chance of it, but this was away from it, and it was only in these certain points where the discoloration was, like, so it's strange.
Exactly. Walter N. Webb, a Boston astronomer and NICAP member, met with the Hills on October 21st, 1961. In a 6-hour interview, the Hills related all they could remember of the UFO encounter. Barney stated that he developed a mental block and that he suspected there were some portions of the event that he did not wish to remember. He described in detail all that he could remember about the craft and the appearance of the somehow not human figures aboard it. Webb stated that they were telling the truth and the incident probably occurred exactly as reported, except for some minor uncertainties and technicalities that must be tolerated in any such observations where human judgment is involved. For example, the exact time and length of visibility, apparent sizes of the object and occupants, distances and height of the object, and so on.
Yeah.
10 days after the alleged UFO encounter, Betty began to have a series of vivid dreams which continued for 5 successive nights. She stated that she experienced them with a degree of detail and intensity that she had never had before. After the 5th night, they stopped and never recurred, though they occupied her thoughts during the day. When she mentioned them to Barney, he was sympathetic but not too concerned, and the matter was dropped. Betty did not mention them to Barney again.
I saw another interview with Betty Hale that was done later in life. It's actually going to be up on our Instagram and Facebook on Thursday and Friday. The first part goes up on Thursday, the second part goes up on Friday. And she is talking about it, and it was like, do you ever forget about something like this? She was like, no. I think about it every night before I go to bed. It's the last thing on my mind, and it's the first thing I think about every morning when I wake up. She said, this is ingrained in me. This is all, I mean, I think about this all day, every day, all of my life.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
In November 1961, Betty began writing down the details of her dreams, and in one dream, she and Barney encountered a roadblock and men who surrounded their car. She lost consciousness, but struggled to regain it.
Now, does that not kind of fall into what I was just saying? Is this what really happened?
Yeah, but then she realised she was being forced by 2 small men to walk into a forest at night. I mean...
Yeah, but I'm just saying, do they instantly change the men into aliens? I mean, is this what actually happened? Did they actually stop at a roadblock? Did the men at the roadblock take fucking advantage of them, seeing that they... Because again, you have to remember...
I understand what you're saying, but I think that there's a lot, a lot there that...
It's just that it's the 60s. If it was any other time, I'd think twice of. This is the 60s, where even people you would consider good, honest people... which they obviously weren't because they were fucking racist piece of shit, but they would see this as not being a crime because it's against a black person and a white person who's sympathizing with a black person. This is at the high, because they were saying that was another big thing again in Barney's favor, was that he had been so present and to the front with the civil rights movement, and it was so heavy at the time, and it was just in full swing at the time, that by getting involved with this, he was discrediting himself on that behalf, and that he was putting a lot of jeopardy when it came to his civil rights position, which was a lot then, because obviously he was doing that because he wanted his people to have the same rights as everybody fucking else, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, that's just a theory I have. I mean, again, the dress being tested would put a lot against it, but this dream, like, men stopping him at a roadblock, leading him into the fucking woods, and him saying that there's sections of it he doesn't want to remember, and I don't know.
So she then realised she was being forced by 2 small men to walk into the forest at night, and of seeing Barney walking behind her, though when she called to him, he seemed to be in a trance or sleepwalking. The men stood about 5 feet to 5 feet 4 inches tall and wore matching blue uniforms with caps similar to those worn by military cadets. They appeared nearly human with black hair, dark eyes, prominent noses and bluish lips, and their skin was a greyish colour. Or
else they were just fun-sized rapists.
She and Barney were taken to the car where their leader suggested that they wait to watch for the craft's departure, and they did so and then resumed their drive home. Having read Webb's initial report, Jackson and Homan, that's very... Do you know what?
Homan!
It's a very odd paragraph. It's like there's no references.
The missing time basically is pretty straightforward. They were in the car. They were driving down the road.
Yeah.
They realised, hey,
we're missing time.
This is a 3-hour trip and we've been in this car for 7 hours.
We see the thing that gets to me there with the missing time, and like, because they're following a UFO, right? Okay. And they literally said they are following this thing like around. But you know as well as I do that if that was you and me in the car and we're following this light around, like 2 hours later, we'd be like, shit, we've been at this for 2 hours.
But you'd still realise that they had no memory at all of this time, like, you know.
Okay.
They had no memory of the roads they drove. They had no memory of being in the car. There was nothing there, like, you know. And then they started to kind of slowly remember where they had been.
Yeah.
But there was a big gap of time there. And that's a very common thing with alien abductions, is people saying that they're on the road, they're driving. Next thing they know, they look at the clock and it's 4 hours later.
Yeah.
They can't remember anything happened. Nothing, to them, nothing really does happen. They're just there and then they're there again. And what people hypothesize is that you're being abducted and they're just putting you right back where they found you. And you keep driving and you have no memory of it. So to you, all that's happened is 4 hours have happened and you can't account for it.
Remember. Yeah.
And that's what's broken up a lot of couples, Amy. When a man comes home and he's like, baby, I've been missing for 4 hours. I can't remember it. And she's like, you were with that slut again, weren't you?
It's a shit excuse. On November 23rd, 1962, the Hills attended a meeting at the parsonage of their church where Captain Ben H. Sweat of the United States Air Force was a guest speaker. Having had an interest in hypnosis, the Hills approached Sweat privately and related their strange encounter. Sweat was particularly interested in the missing time of Hill's account. The Hills asked him if he would hypnotize them to recover their memories, but Sweat declined and cautioned them against going to an amateur hypnotist such as himself.
Oh, an amateur hypnotist.
Gets stuck like a chicken.
He doesn't have insurance.
What? As in, like, I believe that you've lost, you believe in that you've lost an arm, like? Under hypnosis with Dr. Benjamin Simons, as was consistent with his conscious recall, Barney reported that the binocular straps had broken when he ran from the UFO back to his car. He recalled driving the car away from the UFO, but afterward he felt irresistibly compelled to pull off the road and drive into the woods. He eventually sighted 6 men standing on the dirt road. The car stalled and 3 of the men approached the car.
It's when you think about it, especially in a horror movie context, it's terrifying.
Oh yeah, I mean the car just cut and stalling like that's alarm bells.
Watching them coming towards you, and there's nothing you can do.
Yep. Barney described the beings as generally similar to Betty's hypnotic recollection. He said that the beings stared into his eyes with a terrifying, mesmerizing effect. Under hypnosis, Barney said, "Oh, those eyes, they're in my brain." From his first hypnosis session even, and I was told to close my eyes because I saw 2 eyes coming close to mine and I felt like the eyes had pushed into my eyes, and that was from his second hypnosis session. And all I see are these eyes. I'm not even afraid that they're not connected to a body. They're just there. They're just up close to me, pressing against my eyes. That's creepy.
Yep.
While Betty reported the conversation with the leader in English, Barney said that he had heard them speaking in a mumbling language he did not understand. Betty also mentioned this detail. The few times they communicated with him, Barney said it seems to be thought transference because at that time he was unfamiliar with the word telepathy.
That's again, he doesn't even know what telepathy is to fucking understand it.
Under hypnosis, Betty's account was similar to her 5 dreams about the UFO abduction with some notable differences, mainly pertaining to her capture and release. Also, the technology on the craft was different, the short men differed significantly in physical appearance, and the sequential order of the abduction differed. Barney and Betty's memories in hypnotic regression were, however, consistent with one another. Okay. When the series of hypnosis sessions were complete, Simon wrote an article about the Hills for the journal Psychiatric Opinion, explaining his conclusion that the case was a singular psychological aberration.
What does that mean?
So a deviation from, as in like the psychological. So like to me, what he means is almost like folly Jew.
That they both just
that you have like a momentary slip in your psychological awareness abilities kind of.
But that's 2 people hallucinating the same thing. Yeah. And again, I can't see that making sense unless they're covering up for something that happened. But again, like we said, tests will go against what I'm saying. So I mean, And and did they ever test the car? Did they ever? That's something I would have looked at. I mean,
there's just so much it's one of the more convincing ones, though, I have to say. There's something about it. I don't know now if it's just James Earl Jones doing it to me that I love the story, but I think rest in peace, James Earl Jones.
Died as we were recording. Well, he didn't die as we were recording this. We found out as we were recording this.
Yes. The
voice of our childhood, Mustafa and Darth Vader. Mustafa's
Is it going to
be
like when John Hurt died and they all put up their ones? There's going to be loads of people with skyscrapers.
Lightsabers,
skyscrapers.
The only upside, well, not upside to him. It's terrible.
They have his AI for the voice, don't they?
He will continue on as Darth Vader. He would be the voice.
You could never, ever, ever change that voice.
It will be. Yeah, it wouldn't be right. I don't think you'd have to get. It would have to be a Rick and Morty job where you find somebody to do the exact same voice. And there's plenty of impressionists out there.
Or you could just get Hayden Christensen. I'm joking. We couldn't do that.
Come here.
Not his voice. Not wrong with his acting. Not his voice, though. He couldn't voice Darth Vader.
The fucking mask was all broken up and he's looking up. And
there's nothing wrong about it, but he couldn't do a Darth. He couldn't.
No, but what I'm saying is when they had him talk, in that case, they had the Vader voice over kind of modulated, and I think you could do something similar with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Use him to do that. I'd like if they used him with
James Earl
Jones' voice. If they used him as the reference, as the person to speak into the AI to then transfer it to AI.
And with his own tones and inflections,
so the two Vaders combined, and at least one of the living ones is moving it forward. That he's taking up the mantle for him physically and to emote it into the AI, because the AI is only going to be able to do so much. His acting skills have to come through in his voice.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're going to need a good actor, and I would say Hayden Christensen knows the part more than anybody at this point. And it was nice to see him come back and get a bit of justice, because people shit on the prequels at the time, and now they're fucking beloved by fucking Star Wars fans, And I mean, no denying it. Hardcore Star Wars fan. The acting is terrible.
Guilty. No, I wouldn't even say guilty pleasure. I enjoyed them. I always enjoyed them.
Yeah. I enjoyed this episode. This was awesome.
And I just realised I can't watch The Lion King again. Sorry, go on.
Why not?
Because I find it too sad. There were years I couldn't watch Aladdin.
Isn't it? Oh, because of...
I could not even with the kids.
But this is a very different case. This man is in his 90s and lived a very happy life.
Yeah, but halfway through that movie, he's talking about him being dead. It's kind of different.
I know, but again, I mean, when we saw him in Coming to America 2, it was like, oh, he's getting old. He's in his 90s.
I know.
And he seems to have enjoyed himself. I remember him on The Big Bang Theory. I like to think of him like that.
Genuinely, I'd say he had a class life. Yeah, he enjoyed himself. He had a good life.
To get into the 90s, everybody'd be happy to get there. So, I mean, it's sad to lose him, but he got there. He got to the last level. He beat the final boss. He
enjoyed his go-around.
So, that's it. All our alien stuff is done for this week. We'll have some alien stuff again next week. We'll have to. Maybe I'll do the Anunnaki next week. We got another week of Alien, and I was wondering what we're going to fit into Mini Monsters.
Every time you say that name, I think you're on about like a wrestling family or something.
The Anunnakis.
Yeah.
We're going up against the Anuai.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, we'll see you next week. Later.
See ya.